tell me when you can do it. Hi everyone! Hello, how are we? Welcome to my kitchen and welcome to another curry club, a Friday curry club, which is what we used to do in the app. I just thought that I would resurrect the Friday night curry club, but do it over on YouTube so that I can access more of you. I hope everyone's all right. I hope you've had a good day. It's been beautiful out there, beautiful sunshine. It's a little bit weird at the moment. Things are a little bit tense and a little bit strange, but I hope you are all getting through it. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all doing lots of cooking. It seems to be that lots of people are doing lots of cooking. So tonight it's Friday, and in my world, Friday means curry night. So I thought I would do a very quick dish with you today. It's Good Friday, so I don't want to keep your whole Friday evening. Your whole Friday evening. I thought I'd do a quick dish, and this dish is called Nariyal Chicken. Nariyal means coconut, so it's a coconut based curry dish, but it's a really quick and a really easy one. One of the things that people always say to me is that curry takes forever when you want to cook it. You can't have it midweek. I'm telling you, you can have it midweek, and I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. Before I get started, I just want you to know that this is interactive. This is all about you guys. So please say hello. Tell me where you are based in the world. Tell me where you are getting in touch from. Tell me where you're watching from. Please tell me if you're going to cook. I know some of you will be watching, but I know some of you have said that you want to cook as well. So please do let me know. So just to get started, before I actually cook, I'm just going to talk you very, very quickly through the dish, the ingredients that we need for the dish today. As I said, it is a super simple one, and I wanted to start with a super simple one so that it helps build your confidence if you're new to the Indian cooking world. So what we've got
people from Canada, Montreal.
Hello, people from Montreal.
Austin,
who's that?
Texas.
Hello from all the way to the US.
Wendy's from Montreal. Armina's from Canada.
Hi, Wendy.
Tej is waiting for a shout out from the US.
Ted? Was that?
Tej.
Tej. Hi, Tej. How are you? Lovely to have you join us. Thank you for joining in.
James is here from Donegal Island.
Hi, James from Ireland. I hope you're well. I hope you got a bit of sunshine today as well.
Duncan is missing the curry club.
Oh,
Jacqueline
Duncan
is saying hello from Arizona.
Hi from Arizona. How are you? Lovely to have you join us.
Lorraine from Clydebank West, Dunbartonshire. She's not cooking but watching.
Oh, well, well, welcome. Thank you for watching. From Denmark, who's that?
Henrik.
Hi, Henrik from Denmark. How are you?
Who's in the East US, missing home East London.
Oh, well, I'm going to bring a little bit of England to you in the US. A bit of curry night for you.
Hello from Spain, Dublin.
Hello
Iran.
from Iran, Spain. Who else?
Iran, Spain, Glasgow.
Glasgow. Hello. I'm so thrilled to have you all join. Hello.
Ontario. Loads of
Amazing. It's amazing to
London.
Even people from London, which is yay. Okay. So, thank you. It's amazing to have so many people join from across the globe. I know we're all going through a bit of a weird time, but as I said, I'm just going to very quickly talk you through all the dishes, all the ingredients.
Substitute tofu for chicken.
You can absolutely substitute tofu for chicken. So this dish is a very easy dish that you can use meat or veg or lentils or chickpeas, anything that you want to sub the chicken with, you absolutely can. So I'm going to start with some coconut oil, which we're going to use because it's a coconut-based dish. I want to sort of keep that theme running through. So I'm going to start with some coconut oil. I've got some coconut milk. I couldn't get hold of coconut cream, so coconut milk is absolutely fine. Tomatoes. I've got a couple of onions. I have got some of these chilies. So this is what we tend to use in Indian cooking, finger chilies or rocket chilies. These chilies are long, thin, slender, very similar to Serrano chilies if you can get hold of those. If you can't get hold of those, then Thai chilies are your next best bet, but make sure you reduce the amount you use when you use Thai chilies because they're a little bit more potent. So I'm going to use 3.
Hi to Raj and hi to Tread the Globe.
Hi Raj and hi to Tread the Globe. Lovely to have you join me. Oh, I hope you guys are doing well. You're still over in Istanbul, is that right?
Yeah.
Really, really lovely to have you join us. Okay, so I'm going to get back onto it. As I said, super, super simple dish, this one. A lot of Indian dishes, there's a lot of chopping and a lot of ginger, garlic, chillies, which forms the basis of most Indian dishes. But this one is super simple. There's no garlic, there's no ginger in this. And as I said, if you are a novice, it's a great one to start with. So whenever I chop up my onions for any Indian dish that I'm doing, I always think about what I want to end up with. So if I'm looking for a nice smooth sauce, then I will chop up my onions really nice and finely. In this case, I want them to be super smooth because it's a super smooth coconut curry dish. So I'm going to use my very trusted blender here, which I absolutely love. And if you can get hold of one, I would highly, highly recommend it. It takes the work out of chopping, but when you want to do something really smooth, you either end up grating or using one of these. These are brilliant. Oh, pokey onions. And it's that easy. So I'm gonna pop on my gas and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of my coconut oil, and obviously that's going to be solid and that will just start to melt. Now if I show you my onions, oh, look at those. Can you see how lovely and fine they are? They're amazing. So before we add anything else in, once our oil is hot, the first stage of any Indian dish is you will, how do I say it? So there's usually 3 stages at which you add your spices, and when you are heating up your oil at the beginning, that's when you would add your base flavors. So into this I'm going to add some cumin seeds. Now if you are new to Indian cooking, cumin seeds are probably the most commonly used Indian spice. They bring out the natural sweetness of your dish. Used whole, they also have a really lovely nuttiness. So I'm going to put in a teaspoon and a bit of those. So before I go any further, I will just tell you, this is not a teaspoon. This is a tiny weeny little spoon that comes in my spice tin, because I do get a lot of people on the videos commenting that I'm saying one thing and I'm doing something else. This is just a tiny little spoon. So I've added 1.5 of those. And when you are toasting your spices at this point, it's really, really important that you toast your spices. And the reason that you are doing that is because you want your spices to release their natural aromatics. So spices have natural oils within them, and as soon as you can smell them, so as soon as you've applied a little bit of heat and you can smell them, they then release those lovely aromatics, and that's what you're looking to infuse into your food. So my basic rule of thumb is...
Cheers to Mr. G.
Oh, Mr. G's just joined. Hello, Mr. G.
It's time for a drink break.
Oh, do you know what I didn't say? It's Friday, everyone needs a drink. Cheers, everybody. So I've got my little glass of Prosecco, as always. I hope you've all got a little drink with you, because it is Friday night after all. So... when you are toasting your spices, as soon as they become aromatic, as soon as you can smell the aromas, you know you're ready to go in with your next ingredient. So smell those aromas coming through. So my cumin seeds are sizzling beautifully. Can you all see? Now, if at a little bit higher, sorry, can you see now? Yeah. So if at this point you burn your spices, and when you burn your spices, you will know you've burnt your spices, because they go very, very dark and not very pleasant. It's really important, if you burn your spices, you get rid of them and you start again, because they will add a bitterness to your dish and there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. So make sure you get rid of it. Okay, so all my onions there. And if you've cooked with me before, you know I don't like to waste anything, so everything goes in. Okay, so give that a little stir. Oh, they're quite pokey. You can already smell that that's going to taste amazing. Now, for those of you who've done classes with me before or have physically done a class with me, one thing I always tell everybody is that with Indian food, the way in which you cook your onions has such a huge impact on that dish. So whenever you cook a curry, it's all about the onions, okay? So in this case, because we're cooking a nice light coloured curry, we're only going to take our onions to a nice golden brown. If I was cooking a deep, rich, meaty lamb curry, for example, I would cook my onions until they were a really dark, deep brown colour. And because the purpose for that is that's where you get your depth, that's where you get your flavour, that's where you get your intensity. So make sure you sort of have a little think about what you want to end up with at the end of the cooking process, and that should inform you as you go through that process how you sort of cook your onions when you add certain things. So it's a really important little bit to take away, I think. It's all about the onions. If there's one thing you take away from today, it's all about how you cook your onions. So I'm going to carry on and let those cook down. One of the things that I always do whenever I'm cooking onions is right at the beginning, I'll turn my temperature right up high. I'll put my onions in and let them sort of sizzle away. And what happens is all of the moisture is drawn out of them. All of that sort of eye-tingling gas and everything else that's in there. You turn it up right high and you let that sort of cook through, and then I'll turn it down. If I'm cooking, if I was cooking a meat curry, a lamb curry for example, and I wanted to get my onions really, really dark, what I tend to do is as soon as it feels like they're going to catch on the bottom of the pan, I just put a little bit of water in, and I keep on doing that until they break down and cook right down. In this case, I'll probably add a little bit of water in as well if I feel like they're catching. But one of the biggest mistakes I think people make when they're cooking a curry is they just do not cook their onions for long enough. So bear that in mind. Okay, if you've got any questions, please do let me know what they are, because I've got a trusted assistant here who's just going to shout those out, and I'll try and answer them as we go. So please do ask away. I will do my best to help. I will do my best to answer your questions, because that's what I'm here for. Okay, so that's looking really lovely and it's smelling amazing. Into that, we are going to add some tomatoes, and then I'm going to put my coconut milk in. So I'm just going to get that ready. As I said, this is a very, very simple dish. If you wanted to make it a little bit more elaborate, you absolutely could add some garlic into there. If you've got some in the cupboard, why not? You can, but I just thought for today, for the purposes of today, I'm just going to keep it really super simple. Just going to open up my coconut milk as well. I know the recipe says coconut cream. Coconut cream essentially is just the thick bit. So what I tend to do is if I've only got coconut milk, I'll pop it in the fridge beforehand. And what happens is the coconut milk separates out and you get thick cream on the top and you get the watery bit at the bottom. So what you do is you just leave it in the fridge, wait for it to separate, and then when you use it, you just scoop out the thick creamy bit, and then you can add the water as and when you need it.
Armin is asking, is it true you start cooking onions on a very high heat and then lower it? And then Tej is asking, how do you make your onions crispy?
So Armin, just to answer your question, absolutely, you cook it on a really high heat to begin with. And what that does is it draws that moisture out, and then you reduce the heat and you just cook it along as and when you want to. And as I said, if you feel like it's catching on the bottom of the pan, which if you have a look, it's sort of just catching a little bit, all I'm going to do is just put a little splash of water in. What that does is it cools the pan right down and it just deglazes everything, so it brings everything together and it helps them to start browning a little bit as well. And what was the other question, sorry?
How do you make your onions crispy?
If you want crispy onions, so for example, if you were cooking a biryani and you wanted some crispy onions on top, It's really hard to get them crispy if you saute them like this. When I worked in various restaurants, what we used to do was we'd slice them really, really thinly, and then you deep fry them. You get them really crisp, you take them out and you let them just sit, and they will get crispy. That's the only way to get really crispy onions. I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so that's looking really good. Right, so I've got my tomatoes. I'm probably only going to use half a tin. This is 400 grams of here, so I'm probably just going to use half. And the coconut cream, I'll see how I go. In terms of the meat, I'm using chicken thigh because I just prefer chicken thigh to breast meat. If you wanted to, you can use breast meat. If you want to, you could add prawns, you could add fish to this. It's a really lovely, it's got sort of that sort of South Indian style with a little bit of the coconut and that sort of zingy vibe going through it. So it works really well with seafood, prawns. You could use paneer if you've not tried paneer. It's Indian sort of cottage cheese. What else could you use? Tofu, like you said. But any veg would work really well in this. Aubergine would work, aubergine and tomatoes, put some peppers in there. So, you know, Indian food is so easy to manipulate to a vegetarian and even a vegan diet. So, you know, just a few little spices just adds some real interest, but it makes it really, really good and easy to use with different kinds of dietary requirements. So, okay, so I've added a little bit more water, and that's, so if you have a look, they're starting to change colour, they're starting to go that lovely goldeny brown. Now, as I said at the beginning, it's all about the onion. So this dish is a nice light white coloured dish. So I don't need to take my onions to that really dark brown. I just want them to go a little bit more. And whilst that's happening, I'm going to have a little drink. So has everybody else got a little glass of wine, a little beer, something to start the weekend vibe going on? It is Easter after all. It's a nice long weekend. For most of us at the moment, every day feels like a weekend. Okay, right, that's looking really lovely. I love that smell. Right, so into here, I'm going to add half a tin of tomatoes. I tend to use plum tomatoes only because I just think they give a much nicer sauce, a much nicer gravy, a thicker masala. When you put them in, obviously...
Tread the Globe are saying they wanted to thank you for your lentil curry recipe because it's one of their staples during self-isolation.
Oh, I'm so pleased you tried that, the dal dish, you guys over in Istanbul, and thank you so much for sharing it. If you haven't had a look at these guys, so what they're doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're traveling around the world in your camper van, and at the moment you're stuck or self-isolating in Istanbul, and these guys contacted me and just said, look, we've got a few little bits, what can we do? So I told them about my dal dish, which is a standard Indian red lentil dal curry, and they gave it a go, and it seems to be something that's stuck with them. So I'm really, really pleased you're enjoying it, and it's just lovely to hear these stories of how you guys are cooking the dishes across the world. It's amazing, and for me, these dishes are just the stuff that my mum taught me how to make. So it's nothing exciting, nothing, you know, it's just food, isn't it? And it just brings so many people together, and it really makes me happy. Okay,
and then are you using aluminium or stainless steel pan?
This is.
Or does it matter?
So normally when I cook dishes, I tend to use cast iron to cook in, just because with Indian dishes, especially low, slow cooked dishes, cast iron it radiates the heat back into that pan so beautifully. This is just a steel pan. I just like it. It's a chef's pan, and I just like it because for this dish it's nice and wide and it does what I want it to do. Okay, so the tomatoes are in. Now, once you've added your liquid, tomatoes, so your liquid could be coconut milk, could be tomatoes, could be yogurt, could be whatever. At that point, you can add your second stage of spices. So your second stage of spices are your taste and your colour spices. And these are always ground spices. And the reason that you add them now is because you're essentially halfway through that cooking process. Now is the time to add those ground spices because they will release their aromatics and their oils much more quickly. So you want to add them halfway through. If you add them at the beginning, by the time you come to eat your dish, a lot of the aromas and aromatics will have evaporated into the atmosphere. So what we're going to put in is some turmeric. If you haven't seen this is my masala dabba. This is my bit of kit that I take everywhere with me, whether I'm going on holiday, you name it, I take this with me. So we're going to put some turmeric in. I'm going to put a little bit of chili powder in, and that's a pack. Can you see? Yeah. So turmeric goes in and chili powder. Now this dish, because of the coconut, it's got a sweetness to it, so it needs a kick, and that's why I'm going to put a little bit of chili powder in. So my chili powder here is Kashmiri chili powder. It's my chili powder of choice. It's really smoky, it's quite gentle in its heat, but it's a really lovely chili powder to use. Chillies, green chillies are going to get nice and finely chopped up. And when I say finely, I mean finely. When I've done my classes in the past, quite often when we're chopping up chillies, people will chop them into chunks and put those in. Now, if you bite down on a chunk of chilli, it's not going to be nice. Doesn't matter who you are, it's just not very pleasant. So when we add chili to our masala, what we want is the flavour of that chili to dissipate throughout that whole sauce. You don't want chunks of it so that you're biting down on them. There we go, so nice and fine. And remember, whenever you chop up chili, wash your hands afterwards. I've sort of perfected my way of chopping chilies where I actually don't touch the chili anymore. So that goes in as well. And also I'm going to add some salt into this. People always think of salt as being a bad thing, and obviously too much of anything is not good for you, but salt is really, really important. Salt will bring out the heat from the chili, it will bring out other flavours that you've added in there, so you do need to season. A lot of the time when I do my classes, a lot of people will, we taste each other's food, and quite often they say, why doesn't it taste like yours? And it's because they've just under-seasoned, and just a little tiny bit of salt will just lift that dish. Okay, so that's looking good. Now, when you are making your masala, which is so literally translated, masala just means a spice blend. We also use it for spices, but we also use it for our base curry sauce. So a masala is your base curry sauce. This masala should not be a tomato sauce. It should be a masala. And the only way you're going to make it into a masala is by allowing the tomatoes to cook down, break down, and lose their acidity. If you don't let those tomatoes cook down enough, they will still retain that sort of strong, acidic, tomatoey flavour. That is not what a masala is. So when your tomatoes and your onions have started to break down together, that's when you know you've got to the point of making a masala. Okay, so that's looking good. It's smelling really good. So is anybody actually cooking? Has anyone said they're cooking? Because if you are,
Yeah,
I need to know where you are and whether I need to slow down or speed up.
Leslie's saying she's just made your keema rice and is better than the takeaway one.
Hi Leslie, you've just made the keema rice.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to hear that. The fact that you think it's better than a takeaway, that is my aim in life, to get people cooking great Indian food at home and realise they can do it. It's actually really simple to do. And that's why I try to make all of the recipes that I put on the website, that I put on the app, accessible and easy. So do take a look. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, please do have a look at the app, because it's got, I think it's something like 350 recipes on there. It's got about 150 different videos, and it's a great place to talk to other people who love Indian food. I get loads of people posting pictures on there. If you have got the app, please do give us a little shout out. It's a great place to post your pictures, and it's probably the easiest way to get hold of me. If you've got any questions, by all means, post them in the app, and it's me that answers. Quite often you'll find that there's other people in the app who will answer the question before I even get there, but it is always me that sort of, if you want to direct something specifically to me, I will answer you. Okay.
Duncan is cooking along with you and drinking along with Mr. G.
Hi Duncan, are you enjoying your little Friday drink? That's good to know. So,
Steve and Dave Batten? Dave Batten?
Dave Batten, Steve Batten?
They've said
Hello.
Steve and Dave from Virgin are watching.
Oh, hello!
Do you...
I do know them. Hello Steve, how you doing? I hope you've got a drink in your hand. In fact, I know you've got a drink in your hand. Okay, right. So, there we go.
Apocalypse is saying you're a bit ahead of them. Their onions are still sweating.
Oh.
Spices recently added.
What was that, sorry? Apocalypse, you're still sweating your onions.
Yeah.
If you want me to hold back, I can. I'm quite happy to stand and chat and see if anybody's got any questions they want to ask me. So how are things in the US? Anyone over in the US got anything they want to chat about? It's really lovely to see so many of you from the US sort of getting in touch, and I just think that Indian food is becoming more and more popular over there, and it's just amazing to see that people are really interested in putting it together and cooking it rather than just getting those takeaways. So I applaud you. Please do share the love when it comes to your friends and family over there on the other side of the pond, because I think it's going to be a really fun time in terms of Indian food over in the US. Okay.
Would you substitute coconut oil for anything else?
So what was that? So can you substitute coconut oil for anything else? If you don't have coconut oil, just use whatever oil you've got. The only reason I've got coconut oil is because it's a healthier option. It obviously follows through the theme of this dish because it is all about the coconut milk. If you don't have it, just use oil, just use some vegetable oil, whatever you've got in your cupboards. I know things are a little bit tricky at the moment, and a lot of people are just cooking with what they've got. And do you know what? That's what the beauty of food is that just look at what you've got in the cupboard and use it. Indian food and the way that I cook isn't about following a recipe right down to the last sort of letter. For me, food and putting food together is a little bit of, take a little bit of guide from maybe my recipe or whatever recipe you've got, but just use what you've got in your cupboards and give it your little tweak, your little flair, and it's, I assure you that it will always come out amazing. If you pour love into your food, there's no way it can't be delicious. Okay, so my masala is looking really good. The tomatoes have cooked down. Now I'm going to add my coconut. So I'm going to start with the thick coconutty bits. I'm probably going to end up putting the whole lot in because...
Are you planning to have this with rice or naan or roti?
So I am planning to just show you a very quick plain rice dish. Rice is probably the one thing I get asked about all the time. Harry, how do you make the perfect rice? So I'm going to just talk you through my method of doing that. And I've got my rice sort of ready here. It really depends on what you like. If you like breads, if you like naan, if you like roti, there's no right or wrongs when it comes to Indian food. It's all about you enjoying it and you and your family's enjoying it.
And then 2 questions. Do you add turmeric at the beginning or the end? And then Matthew has a box of anardana.
Anardana.
How and when does he use that?
Okay, so turmeric, as I said, turmeric normally gets added at the second stage. Depends on what dish you're doing. And once you've added your liquid, so whether that be your tomatoes or whatever that might be, once you've added your liquid, you can then put your taste and your colour spices in. Taste and colour spices are things like turmeric, chili powder, ground cumin, ground coriander, anything that gives a bit of flavour, anything that gives a bit of colour. And they are always a powder. So that normally goes in halfway through the cooking process once your liquid has gone into that dish. What was the second question? Who was that from?
The anardana powder from Matthew.
Matthew, anardana. Anardana is an amazing spice. So what it is pomegranate. So pomegranate, the little red jewels that you get of pomegranate, what we tend to do is we'll dry them, and it's either quite coarse powder or it's ground down into a fine powder. And what it adds is, it's almost like not a citrusy zing, but it adds this zing that's quite unique. And we tend to use that in dishes that are like slightly like a salad. We'd also use it. So I've got a beef kebab dish on my website, Jarbli Kebabs, and they are an Afghanistani style kebab, and they have anardana in it, so it's a really good one to use. Also things like jarred, which are like chickpea salads, cold dishes, a little sprinkling of anardana in that, it just lifts it, gives this amazing zing. But even in just normal salads, if you're doing whatever, just use it then. Okay.
Not add it to this one then?
Do you know what? You could add it to this if you wanted to. If you're cooking fish, if you're cooking prawns, it will add a zing to it. So yeah, there's no reason why you wouldn't. Right, I'm just going to show you very quickly the colour of that dish. Can you see? It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful colour, and it's really, really important. So it's not just about flavour, it's also about how it looks, and the colour of your dish is very important.
A couple of questions.
More
if
questions.
If you're using a whole chicken, is there anything to look out in terms of chicken breast becoming rubbery?
If you're using a whole chicken to do it, so when I'm using different cuts of a chicken in the same dish, what I tend to do is I will add, and again, if it's on the bone, I would put my boned pieces in first. My on the bone pieces, not boned. My on the bone pieces would go in first, and then once they are almost cooked, so if you were doing thighs and drumsticks, for example, they would probably take a good 20 minutes, 25 minutes to cook. And then at that point, I would then add my breast. If you put your breast in at the same time, the breast it won't go rubbery. It will just go very, very dry. So, so if you're doing that, just add your meat in stages. The other thing you can do, I guess, and sometimes that I do with the kids, is I will do thigh and breast meat mixed together, because they don't like the thigh meat, I don't like the breast meat, so it just it keeps it quite moist. So meat on the bone and thigh meat it has a little bit more fat running through it, so it doesn't dry out like the breast will.
And then someone has recently made your lamb kebabs and loves them. Is there a fat substitute you could suggest to add to corn mince to stop it breaking apart when you cook?
Do you know what? Corn mince is a funny thing. It is a funny thing. I personally, if you eat meat, then just use meat. Use mince. You can use minced lamb. You can use minced turkey. You can use minced chicken. It's quite difficult to sub into corn. The only thing you can do, I guess, would be breadcrumbs you could add, and it depends how strict you are. You could add a little bit of egg in there as well, and that will just sort of moisten it up a little bit, and that will help.
Cornell has asked, overcooking chicken makes it rubbery. When do you know it's cooked just right?
Oh, it's tricky. Chicken doesn't take a lot of cooking. Just before I start, before I answer your question, my chicken or my masala is done. And it looks lovely. So I'm going to add my chicken. I don't know where you guys are. If you are not at this stage, please give me a little shout out and let me know. But I'm going to add my chicken into here just to get that cooking, because as I said, I don't want to keep you here all night. So just washing my hands. Right, so when you add your chicken in, I'm going to stir it, coat it, and then it's really important at that point that you turn it down and you let the meat cook. What a lot of people will do at this point, now this is a slightly different dish because you've got quite a lot of masala or sauce there already, but quite often what you have is a dry paste. You put your chicken in and then people will put loads of water in there. And you've just spent a long time making a really intense masala and then you just dilute it by adding water. What you need to do is just turn it right down, and all of the juice and the flavour for that dish will come from the meat, especially if you use thigh meat or meat on the bone. So I'm just going to turn that down and let that cook. So your question, Cornell, was about how do you know when your chicken is done? It really depends on the cut you are using. It depends on whether it's on the bone, off the bone. So it's quite a difficult question to answer. If you are using breast meat, it's really tricky because if you chop your breast meat and you add it to a sauce like this, it will have the tendency to dry out very, very quickly. So you need to make sure that your masala and your sauce is bang on before you add that meat in there, because you want to give that as minimal cooking time as possible. So if I was doing this with breast meat, I would probably give it, I'd say about 7 or 8 minutes and it would be done. That hot sauce is really, really hot, and that breast meat is not going to take much cooking. If I was doing this with meat on the bone, thigh meat, drumsticks, it would be about 20-25 minutes, as I said. Things like paneer, corn, vegetables, obviously you don't want to cook your vegetables down till they turn to mush. So if I was doing it with mushrooms and aubergines, I would put those in first, and then just as it's almost ready, I would probably then add some peppers in just for a little bit of colour. So it really depends on the cut of your chicken, and that's sort of going to help you decipher how long it needs cooking for.
Do you wash your chicken?
Do you wash your chicken? Very, very interesting question. So when I was growing up, you always washed your chicken. I can remember my mum always washing my chicken, not my chicken, but chicken. These days, no. The recommendation is that you do not wash your chicken, and the reason for that is when you wash your chicken, as soon as the water hits, you get this spray back and you get bacteria then going all over the place. So the recommendation is that you do not wash your chicken, and you don't really need to. You know, in the UK, the US, and you don't need to wash it. It really depends where you're getting your chicken from. I hope that helps. Okay, so is everyone together? Are we more questions?
Yeah. When you say low heat, do you mean it's simmering now? And also, Steve from Virgin's asking, where is your glass of Prosecco?
My glass of Prosecco's here, Steve. It's nearly empty, so I'm going to get my son to get me some more. You know me. Don't go anywhere without my Prosecco. What was the other question?
When you say low heat.
Low heat. Okay, so yeah, so when you are cooking your meat, once your sauce is ready, you turn it right down to the lowest heat setting, and then you just let it simmer. So you put your meat in on a high heat, you coat it, get that sauce all covered on the meat, then you turn it right down to the lowest setting and you just leave it, and it will just bubble away, and that is what will draw the flavour and the juices and the deliciousness out of the dish. Can you see? So that's my son crawling along the back. I know you could see that. He thought he was being really discreet, but he's not. He's going to get me some more Prosecco, so he's very, very well trained. Okay, right, so we are in a good place. I hope you guys are in a good place if you're cooking with me. So the chicken is doing its thing. I'm going to very, very quickly move on to the rice, because you obviously need to eat your chicken with something. So I've got in here my rice. Now my rule of thumb when it comes to rice, I have a few little rules. Just have to wait while I get a little top up. Thank you. Oh no, that's terrible. I need another bottle. Anyway, general rule of thumb when it comes to rice. Always go for the best rice that you can possibly afford. When it comes to Indian food, it's all about a nice long grain rice, and it's about elongating that grain of rice. So it's a basmati is what we're looking for. Basmati rice grows in the foothills of the Himalayas. It's aged and it's very, very aromatic. It's delicious. So if you can, go for basmati. With Indian cooking, it's about individual grains of rice. You don't want stodge, you don't want sticky rice. It's about individual grains of rice, all standing on end almost. So obviously with different cultures and different, different styles of cooking, there's different ways of cooking rice. But with Indian food, it's all about that. Indians are real rice snobs. And if you cannot cook your rice properly, you'll be in trouble. So basic rule of thumb is 1 mug. So a normal mug of tea will feed 3 people.
What is the difference between basmati and jasmine rice?
They're just they're different different varieties, and they have different aromatics. So jasmine and basmati are different kinds of rice.
So I say the difference between basmati and paya rice.
So when you've got so paella rice, jasmine rice, all of these varieties of rice, and the grains are very, very different.
And is basmati better for Indian?
Basmati is best for Indian food, in my opinion. Okay, so when you are cooking rice, a lot of people end up with mountains of it, and a lot of people end up with tiny little, and you're never quite sure. So I normally say a tea mug, the size, a normal mug of tea, that will feed 3 people. So if you fill that up with rice, that's enough for 3 people. Whenever you are cooking rice, you need to wash your rice until the water runs clear. So you put water into a pan, you run your hand through it, and you'll see it gets very, very murky. Pour that away and do it again. So you need to change your water probably about 4 times. So wash your rice until the water runs clear. And then it's twice the amount of water to rice. Okay, if you are going by ratios, twice the amount of water to rice by volume. So if you're using 1 mug of rice, you use 2 mugs of water. Okay, so I've roughly guesstimated that's about right. So what I will now do is I will bring that up to a rolling boil. And by rolling, I mean when it's vigorously boiling and it's steaming and so on. So you're losing some of that moisture. As soon as that happens, you then turn it right down to the lowest setting, put the lid on the pan, and you leave it for 10 minutes, okay? Don't mess with it. Don't be tempted to take the lid off and stir it. Just leave it alone, and it will just cook. The aim of what you're trying to do is you are trying to get all of that water to be absorbed in that rice, so you get nice, long grains of rice. I know different people have different methods, and some people put loads of water in and boil it up and then sieve it and all of that kind of stuff. This absorption method, I believe, is probably one of the easiest methods. And once you get it right,
Show your size of the mug that you use.
I'll show you a mug. So I would normally use a normal mug. A normal tea mug like this will give you enough food for 3 people, 3 hungry people. So that's what I use when I'm cooking my rice. So I'm going to let this come up to a rolling boil, and then I'm going to turn it right down to the lowest setting, pop the lid on, and let that just simmer away, and all of that water will be absorbed, and you'll get
salt or anything to the water?
So it is a really good question, to salt or not to salt your rice. When I worked in the restaurant, we would always salt our rice, and it does make it taste better. It absolutely does make it taste better. But when I'm cooking at home, and quite often if we're having rice, it's going to be with a curry that's quite heavily flavoured anyway. I just feel that actually, do I need to add that additional salt in there when we've got so much flavour in the curry? So when I cook at home, I tend not to salt, but when you know, if I'm cooking, when I'm doing private dining or professionally or whatever it might be at that point, I will season the rice because it does taste nice. Okay, right. So that we're going to let that boil. Also keep an eye on your chicken. So that is simmering away. We just need to give that a little stir. It's looking really, really good actually, and it's smelling amazing. It's a bit of a funny one today because although I'd planned to do this, it was actually barbecue weather, and I was thinking, oh, do I change the recipe? I could do a bit of tandoori chicken on the barbecue, but I'm hoping that the weather will hold and we'll do another one and I can show you my amazing tandoori chicken. So any more questions? Have we got any more questions you want to ask?
Is basmati rice better for your health? Someone said it's less starchy.
It's got, what is it? What is it? High or low GO? I can't remember which way around it is. Is it better for your health? Brown rice obviously is better. You can get brown basmati rice. It's just got a little bit more roughage in it, so it is a better rice. I think it's the same with anything. People always talk about what is health, what is good for your health, what is not. I am a firm believer in everything in moderation is absolutely fine. I don't think you should cut out specific food groups. I don't think you should miss out specific food groups unless you've got a health reason for doing that. But I think a little bit of everything is always good. So it's not an unhealthy rice. It's got a low, I can't remember which way around it is. It's either low or high. But you know, it's just one of those things that I think you've got to make a decision based on your own requirements and needs. Okay, so we're still waiting for this to boil. Once that's done, I'm going to start to dish up. So I'm just going to clear up a little bit. Okay, that's a very good point. Let me talk you through my spice tin or my masala dabba. So this is called a masala dabba. Masala means, as I've just told you, spice. Dabba means box. So this is an Indian spice tin. And most, if not all, Indian households will have them. And in my eyes, these are your 7 key spices. These are my everyday spices, the things that I use all the time. And if I talk you through them very, very quickly, I'm not going to take too long over it. So we've got turmeric, which is the lovely yellow spice here. So that's a root. It looks very similar to ginger when it grows. It adds colour, but it does have a flavour. If you have ever been to an Indian restaurant and left with a chalky sensation in your mouth, it's probably because they've added too much turmeric. So it's not just about colour, but it is the stuff that you always spill down your shirt when you go for an Indian. Garam Masala, the iconic spice blend of the north of India. It's a blend of about 9 different spices. It's not hot, it hasn't got chili in it, but garam means warm, masala means spice. So it's a blend of warming spices and they just infuse warmth from within. Cumin seeds I talked a little bit about already. I can't see what that one is. Coriander seeds, the seeds of this stuff. So if you plant coriander, that's what you get. And then in the middle is mustard. Black mustard or brown mustard is what we use in Indian cooking. And then this stuff is something that probably not very many people use or have used. So that is called kasuri methi, and it's fenugreek. It's fenugreek, it's the herb of fenugreek. And for me, fenugreek is amazing. It's the stuff that when you come down the next day and you can still smell that curry in the atmosphere, it's because of this stuff. It's amazing stuff. Predominantly for North Indian cooking, not so much in South Indian cooking, but if you can get hold of it, I highly, highly recommend that you always keep a little bit of that for your those meaty curries, lentil curries, things like that. All of these spices, just to say, are available on the website. So you know, we send out refills for the masala dabba. We sell the tins and everything. So check out the website and see if there's anything on there that will be of any use to you.
Just quickly say what's in your garam masala. And then also, if you make a chickpea masala, you add the chickpeas at the end and just not cook them as long as you would chicken.
Okay, sorry, so I'm getting two questions here. I'll talk you through my garam masala. So I make my own garam masala. It's from a blend that my mum taught me how to make. Before I do that, I just want to show you that my rice, I don't know if I'll be able to show you or not, but that is boiling, simmering. So that is doing what I want it to do. I'm now going to turn that to the lowest setting, and I'm actually going to move it to the smallest hob. I'm going to pop the lid on, and it's going to just sit for 10 minutes doing its thing. I'm just going to move the chicken back over here because the chicken should pretty much be done. So, look at that colour, it looks amazing. Right, that is pretty much done. Okay, so going back to that question about garam masala. So garam masala is the iconic spice blend of the north of India. Each family, each region, each area will have their own version of it, but the one that I sell on the website and the one that I use is my personal blend, and it's a blend that my mum taught me how to make. My blend has 9 different spices in it. If you go to my website and have a look at a blog called The Wonder Spice, I have literally gone through exactly how I make it, so you can refer to that and you can make your own blend. But it's got in there coriander, cumin, cloves, cassia bark, black cardamom, bay leaves, black peppercorns, ajwain, and have I said them all? I don't. There's one more. I can't remember the other one. It'll come to me. Coriander, cumin, cassia, cloves, black cardamom, bay leaves, green cardamom, ajwain, cassia. Have I said that? Anyway, if you go to the website, it's called The Wonder Spice. It's a blog page, and I've literally just talked through how I put it together. And I would highly recommend you make your own. It's varying quantities of those spices, so it's a tablespoon of this and a teaspoon of that. But once you do it, you just put it into a jar and just keep it. I would always recommend you make small amounts. Don't make great big vats of the stuff because it just won't work. Just small amounts, use it as and when you need it. I use it when I'm making wedges, I sort of sprinkle it on my potatoes, I use it for all kinds of things. But one thing I will say now is, we talked a little bit about the process of when you add your spices. So your whole spices at the beginning, your taste and colour spices at halfway through once your liquid goes in. Your aromatics then go in right at the very end. And by aromatics, I mean things like your delicate aromatics. So your garam masala, your nutmeg, cinnamon, anything like that goes in right at the very end, as well as any delicate herbs. So I'm just going to get my coriander ready to go in. Because I'm going to finish this dish off with some fresh coriander, chopped up nice and finely. I will use stalks and all because, as I said, I don't waste anything. So stalks and all, nice and finely chopped. When you are chopping coriander, only ever go through it with your knife once. If you spend ages going through it, then going back and going through it, you are going to damage those leaves, and they will just turn black and lose their freshness and their aroma. So you just go through it once and that's it. You don't need to keep on doing it. Okay, so my chicken, I'm going to show you now, is mine's done pretty much. Yep, so a question about chili powder. My chili powder of choice is Kashmiri chili powder. The reason that I use Kashmiri chili powder is if you have a look at that colour, that beautiful, vibrant red colour, dishes like your Rogan Josh or your tandoori chicken, this is where the colour comes from. So if you can find a really nice Kashmiri chili powder that's vibrant and red, There's no need to add any other food colouring or nonsense to your food. If you can't get hold of it, I sell it on the website. So just log on to the website and you can order it and we get it out to you as quickly as possible.
Also, is it okay to use dried coriander instead of fresh?
So that's a very, very good question about the dried coriander and fresh coriander. If you add your coriander, if you're using fresh coriander at the end, because it's a herb, it's a delicate herb, and it's all about adding a little bit of vibrancy to your dish. You cannot substitute coriander, the herb, with the spice, because the spice gives you a very, very different flavour. The spice is more about zinginess. It's almost got a lemony flavour to it. So it's a very different thing that you're adding. If you haven't got any fresh coriander, just miss it out. It's absolutely fine. But it's really important that you understand the difference between your herbs and your spices and the flavours that they give. Whenever I do my classes and when I teach, I do a whole section on spices. I do a big spice masterclass and I get people to taste them and understand what it is that these things are adding to your food. So it's all very well, you know, chucking loads of spices in, but if you don't know what they are adding in terms of flavour and aromatics, then you're working a little bit blindly. So it's really important that you understand what they do to your food.
Someone's just mentioned they're finding it interesting you've boiled the rice on the stove instead of an electric cooker. Is there any reason behind that? Does direct heat from the flame make a difference?
So I've just had a question about using an electric cooker for rice rather than a hob. I always cook on the hob. I don't have an electric cooker for rice. If you've got one, they are brilliant. Yeah, by all means you can use them, but it's just the way that I cook rice. It's easy, it's the way that I've been taught how to make it, and you don't need to invest in anything else because you can actually do it all directly on the hob. So
what about fenugreek leaf versus the powder?
So fenugreek leaf versus the powder, again, a very interesting one. So the leaf, the methi, the kasuri methi, which I talked about earlier, is a very delicate aromatic. You cannot substitute that for the spice. The spice is really bitter, it's really potent, and if a recipe says fenugreek, it quite often means the spice, but if it says methi or fenugreek leaves, it's the herb. You cannot substitute one for the other. If you substitute the spice in rather than the herb, you need to be very, very careful because it will overpower the whole of your dish. The spice and the seeds I only use in very, very specific dishes, and you would only ever use probably about a teaspoon because they're so potent and so strong, whereas this stuff, the methi, you can just chuck it in willy-nilly if you like. Okay, so my chicken is done, and I'm just going to show you what we need to do to finish that off. Now look at that beautiful colour. Lovely, vibrant and amazing. Now I can assure you, if you were going to order a curry from a takeaway, by the time you've made this, they still wouldn't be here. So to finish off your dish, your third stage of spicing, it's all about your aromatics and those delicate spices. So this is when your garam masala goes in. Garam masala is all about bringing all of those flavours that you put into that dish together and just finishing it off and just making it really aromatic. So as you're carrying the dish to the table, you're getting all of these amazing aromas coming off of it. So a teaspoon of garam masala goes in. And you wouldn't use garam masala in every single dish. It really depends on where that dish is from. So this is sort of a North Indian dish, but with South Indian flavours. It's actually a dish that I made up, but hey ho. And then my coriander is going to go in. Now, coriander isn't just about a garnish. It is a little bit more important than just your final garnish. It just adds and lifts and just makes that dish something really quite special.
On a scale of kind of 1 to 10, blow your head off, where is Kashmiri chili powder?
Kashmiri chili powder is a really mild chili powder. what it's got is colour and smokiness. So I would say it's probably about 3. It's not a very hot chili, which is, so when I cook, I will use green chilies for heat and for freshness during the cooking process, and then Kashmiri chili powder for colour, but also a little bit of a kick. So it's quite a mild chili powder. Okay, so I am going to just move these bits and pieces over here. I'm going to show you what this dish looks like, and hopefully you guys that are cooking are still with me and you're pretty much done as well, and then you can sit down and enjoy this on your Friday evening with another glass of something lovely. So look at that. So Indian food is about lightness, it's about flavour, it's about delicacy, it's about aromatics. It's not just about heat and blowing your head off. In fact, it's got very little to do with that. So there is my Nariyal chicken, and I'm just going to come over, I've turned my rice off, and I'm going to bring that over here just to show you, clear my area. There we go. So this is the big one. Let's have a little look. Now, when you are cooking your rice, hi Christine. Christine's in the house.
This is her complete favourite dish ever.
Oh yeah, I've heard you've cooked this a few times. Okay, I'm gonna have to show you this. Right. So there you go. Can you see? So if you can see, all of the water has been absorbed. The little grains of rice are practically standing on end. Can you see them? Now, when your rice is cooked, what you don't want to do is then plunge straight in with a spoon. What you want to do very, very delicately with a fork, just fork through it very gently, because what will happen if you just dive into that with a great big spoon, you're going to break those grains of rice and you're going to do all of those things you didn't want to do and spoil it. So I'm just going to pop.
Someone just asked, is it okay to sub cumin powder in at the end instead of seeds at the beginning?
If you don't like whole spices, there are a lot of people who don't like whole spices, and I get that, that's fair enough. I would just put in coriander when you add your chillies and your turmeric. So just put in coriander at that point. Just put your cumin in at that point rather than the cumin seeds. People worry that the cumin seeds are going to be quite hard and quite strong, but what they add is, like I said, they add a slight nuttiness. And what you don't want to do is put loads of them in, so it's overpowering. So I put 1.5 teaspoons in. It will add more than just that cuminy flavour. It adds that lovely nuttiness that's so important with a lot of these dishes. So here we go. I hope you guys are, if you've been cooking along, I hope you are pretty much there. So here we go. There is my Nariyal chicken. Oh, can you see it? There's my Nariyal chicken with plain boiled basmati rice. Really simple, really easy, perfect for a Friday night or even a Wednesday night. And as I said, look, it takes half an hour, if that, to cook. I hope you've had fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you feel like you've got lots of information out of me. Please do leave lots of comments. As I said, go and check out the app. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, which I hope you guys have, please do share it with your friends and family. We are almost at 100k subs, and what I really want to do is give that a massive push. So I think we're on about 86 at the moment. We want to get to 100. So please do share the channel with your friends and your family and get people cooking. I hope you've had fun, and as I said, please do ask lots of questions. I will answer them all as I sit and eat my dinner. But have a fabulous Easter. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time. And we will be back next week, I think. I think we're going to do another one next week. So put it in your diaries, and I will share a link for the dish that we're going to cook. Probably going to be a lamb dish next week. But yeah, stick it in your diaries. I will share the link, and if you want to cook along with me, you just need to go out, get those ingredients. The other thing you can do is just get one of my curry kits, and we'll probably do a dish that is part of that range, so you've got all of the spices in one place. But as I said, I'll share the links with you. Thank you for joining. Happy Easter and cheers.